What is up, everybody? Welcome to First Round Fantasy. This is episode number 4, and as you can see, we got 4 dudes on the crew today. The very first time, Demont and Joe making their debuts. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much.
What's going on, fellas?
Maybe like
Demont got a visitor, man.
Yes, and we got our mascot here,
Hey,
Little Max. Little Max, there we go. And of course, the OG Gabe. What's going on, man?
I liked it last week when you called me the GM. It felt
The
like
GM.
that is nice.
GM. Gabe,
I kept messing
gotta
up
change my
Gabe's last.
hashtag.
I kept messing up Gabe's last name. Like, what
You
did I?
realize I've known Jacob for 4 years. You want to know how he pronounced my name like the first podcast? Let me introduce you to my friend Gabriel Monte. I'm like, bro, that's not what? Really? This is where
No,
we're
I
at?
said Miramontes or something. I said it wrong. I said it
Didn't
very
get the S
wrong.
in there.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna call you GM from now on, man.
Sounds good.
But
to me.
yeah, today, like normal, we're gonna talk a little bit of news stories, but we're also we have our subjects today. We're gonna talk most likely to have a comeback year, most likely to have a breakout year, and most likely to regress or I guess bust. A couple of us have some bust players as well. And we could talk about how those are different, I suppose. But the most recent thing that just happened was our boy, because we're all Niners fans here, right? Our boy, Raheem Mostert, finally got a restructured deal, but it's not that great, in my opinion. It's kind of just he got incentives. That's it. So, I mean, this is what I heard. So he got right now his current deal is $2.575 million. With a $300,000 signing bonus, and he can earn up to another $2.75 million in bonuses and incentives, which I guess that's better than nothing for him.
I heard he was asking for $4.4 million. He wanted to be paid what Tevin Coleman was. So he's just really betting on himself. I mean, that's a win-win for both the team and him because he can earn $5.5 million. Which is more than he was even asking for if he just does exactly what he did last season. So I think it's a good move for the team and a good move for Mostert. He deserved it. He did enough last year and on special teams as well before he got in the mix to put himself in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't even the full-time starter, and San Francisco never has a full-time running back, especially not recently. And he was our best running back last year. He had almost 800 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns overall. And he really took over as the lead back at the end of the year. So I'm good with this, honestly.
Yeah, and like we talked about last week too, they both had Tevin Coleman and Mostert both had the same number of carries last year. Mostert was just more efficient. This year, he's probably going to do the same, if not outcarry Tevin Coleman. So it's a good move. It's cool. I'm glad they signed him back. That's a good move for football. Good move for Mostert too. I don't think he would have been the same type of back anywhere else. He just
all right, one more thing real quick. There's officially no preseason. So guys, are we drafting tomorrow or what?
I'm down.
Yeah, buddy. That's the biggest thing, right? Is now you can kind of before we've had years. I mean, we've been playing fantasy football for quite a few years, and I remember we drafted a while ago, and one of our buddies took Jordy Nelson in the first or second round, and he gets injured week 2 preseason, and that's his season, and we used to do early drafts, and then we ended up moving it back. And now with this, obviously, we could draft tomorrow, like you said, and there's no worries.
Yeah, things can still happen. Like Deebo Samuel got hurt in practice, I believe. So
Yeah,
something like that can happen. But
Lamar Jackson almost rolled his ankle on a yacht or on a speedboat in Cancun, wherever he was. So things happen. Yeah.
Yeah, but practice is one of those things where that could happen anytime. Didn't
That's
Deshaun
true.
Watson, he tore his ACL or
yeah, that first year where he was balling. Yeah.
and he tore it in practice, so you can't prepare for that. But preseason is one of those things where freak injury happens in actual gameplay, and at least the least that you can do is draft, third, fourth week of preseason or after preseason to at least give yourself a better idea of who's there.
Definitely.
Yeah, we'd be drafting like the last weekend before the season starts usually.
Yeah.
But I think especially for like a rookie and dynasty draft, like why not do it soon? Like it's next month. Like people draft in August. So I don't know. Hey, Demont, how do you think this affects like players' worth? Like, you know how people get hot in the preseason and then they jump to like their draft capital jumps up a little bit. Like, you think that's going to hurt or help players?
I feel like it's going to most likely hurt players because a lot of people that win their jobs on preseason aren't going to be able to make a roster spot, but it's going to help us because a lot of our sleepers aren't going to be seen.
That's true.
Pros and cons. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, the like the rookies, right? The ones who blow up in the preseason.
Exactly. Like
who we already know about those guys, but this is how like the casual fantasy player learns about them.
Exactly.
In a way. Awesome. Well, yeah, definitely. I think it just depends on what type of league you got. If it's a redraft league, you can still wait until the last weekend. But if it's like Dynasty or something, nothing wrong with moving it up, I don't think. For sure. All right, so let's get into our picks here. So we got most likely to have a comeback year based on a disappointing year last year. Let's go ahead and start with you, Joe. So who do you got as your number one choice for this?
Well, I had a couple names jotted down, but I think I'm going to go with who I think Gabe also thinks is Juju Smith. I think
Why didn't I go first? What?
You know what? I'm going to save that one. I can move on now. I'll say James Conner. I think it's the same situation as Juju Smith-Schuster. They both kind of rely on Big Ben. He wasn't, him not being there last year kind of just disrupted everything. And Connor was himself, I think, banged up a couple of games and, against, but when he was healthy, he had a couple decent games where we were like, is this when he's going to turn it around? So I think with Big Ben coming back, him being healthy for a year, we know there's no Le'Veon situation going on this whole summer. It's his job. I think he'll bounce back, maybe not to the point where he was 2 years ago when Le'Veon sat out, but he's still worth, at least I would say a third-round pick. I would take him in the third round and bet that he's going to end up finishing top 15 running back and be a consistent starter.
Damn, Joe, that was actually my first choice as well. Connor. Hey, but I have backups though. But think about this. I took him in the first round last year. Well, all right. Yeah, I like that pick. Again, that was my first choice, but now I can talk about my backup so I'm excited about that. But let's go to Demont now. So, Demont, who's your comeback player of the year?
Comeback player, I have a receiver and a running back. The running back, I have Devin Singletary. He ran for 775 yards and 2 scores. And the reason I choose him, because last year he was supposed to be that guy, but old man Frank Gore, the guy who never dies, vultured. And then you also had Josh Allen, who was also a running quarterback who took away carries that Singletary could have had. And then you add Diggs, and you still have John Brown. They can open up the field. So I just think that he's gonna Josh Allen is gonna become a better passer. We have to rely less on his legs, so they're gonna be handing the ball off to Singletary more. Without Frank Gore, there's no competition. It's cold. I feel like he's gonna easily eclipse 1,000 yards and triple that touchdown total. And
I like the sound of that.
I like it, dude. I like Devin Singletary. I was big on him last year. I want him to be big on him.
And then piggybacking off Joe for a receiver, I'm going to go Deontay Johnson on the other side. Because he had, 59 catches for 680 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. And that was with Rudolph.
Yeah.
And Rudolph was not good whatsoever. He did not run that offense at all. They averaged, 13 points a game in the last 4 weeks. But he still managed to catch 23 passes and 250 yards. So with Big Ben back, I feel like Deontay Johnson is going to have a breakout right alongside Juju 2,000-yard seasons.
Wow.
Damn. I mean, we saw Ben support that before, so
yeah,
it's possible.
Yeah,
it's definitely possible. All right, so
catching balls there. Yeah. Darius Hayward-Bay, is he still over there? That one-time Raider.
Maybe. I just hope Big Ben can stay healthy all year, man. I mean, not that he usually doesn't, but that just sucked. It ruined the whole fantasy of the whole team last year. So,
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those players were directly dependent on Big Ben's success. And when he wasn't there, that was a lackluster offense, to say the least.
Well, and Big Ben is another option for us to use as a fantasy quarterback, right? I mean, when he's healthy, he has those games, there's always been road Ben, home Ben. He does a lot better at home than on the road. But when he's healthy at home, sometimes he's putting up 400 yards, 3-4 touchdowns, and he can win your week. He's got big game potential. So, he still has weapons like Damon said, Juju, Deontay, James Conner. We all know what they can do. So it's going to be a fun year for the Steelers, I think.
Sure.
It is indeed a fun year.
Yeah, he's always rostered. Like, even though he's always like the 10th or 11th quarterback taken, he's always rostered. Even if you don't start him every week, you got to have him on your team for sure. So I'll go ahead and go with mine. So my original number one was James Conner, because I really think he's gonna be an RB1 this year for sure. But because he sucked balls last year, I'm gonna go with Sony Michel. I think Sony Michel is gonna have a lot better season than he had last year. And look, this is a totally different thing. With Tom Brady, he spread the ball around so much, like to everybody, and you could barely rely on some of those guys. And even James White and Edelman were always the most reliable on those teams. But I think if you look at, Cam Newton and his career, I think Cam Newton's going to be the starter right away. That's what I think. So, Cam Newton's running backs have always been at least flex worthy, RB2 worthy. Those guys were always rostered. And then obviously when McCaffrey came around, it was a whole other story. And McCaffrey's only in his third year. So Cam played most of his career without him, and he always had reliable guys. I'm not saying Sony Michel's going to be an RB1, no way. But I do think he's going to be, at the end of last year, he was droppable. Like nobody was starting him. He was unusable. Yeah. And the year before that, he was really good. His rookie year, he was a pretty solid RB2 there. I remember I had him in the league. So based on last year's performance, I definitely think Sony Michel has a chance to bounce back from that.
Man, I have him in another category, Jacob.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But what do you guys think? Do you think I'm crazy, or you think he has a chance?
I think we save it for when Damon brings him up next, and we book it down, man. We get our second book it down of the season. It'll be fun. It'll be great.
Sure. All right, Gabe, surprise us, man. Who's your pick?
Surprise? How could I ever surprise you guys? You guys knew who I was picking before we even came up with the idea of this show. He's my favorite player in the NFL. I took him from Damon a few years ago in a couple of leagues, and he's amazing. He's an amazing talent. He's an amazing athlete, and that's Juju Smith-Schuster. It's kind of weird that we all picked Steelers. It's mainly because that entire offense last year was decrepit. It was immovable. It was not a good offense.
No.
And if we can all reminisce on Juju Smith-Schuster's 2018 years with Antonio Brown, 160 targets, 111 receptions for almost 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. And those were great. Those were wide receiver 1 numbers. Then you go to 2019. Big Ben is done for the year. We've already mentioned that. You have Kyle Rudolph, and who was the other quarterback? I can't even remember his name. You had a mix and match between those two guys starting throughout the year, and it just wasn't good. Not only that, Smith-Schuster was finally put on the outside to take place of that absence that Antonio Brown had left. He's not a good outside receiver, or at least he wasn't then with the bad quarterback play. He thrives in the slot, which is where he did most of his damage in 2017 and in 2018. So with the addition of Chase Claypool, Steelers spent a second-round pick on him. They also have Deontay Johnson, and they also have James Washington. Those are guys who are deep threats that can go down, stretch the field. It's time. It's time for Juju Smith-Schuster to come back, take over the slot again, and get peppered with those targets week in and week out. And not only that, too, it's that Big Ben, just look at all the years we have of him and Antonio Brown together. Sometimes it felt like Antonio Brown was the only receiver on that team. And we have, 5-6 years of evidence to support this? So I just feel like with Big Ben coming back, he's got mostly new weapons. He doesn't have that much time with Deontay Johnson. He doesn't have that much time with James Johnson. He has no time with Chase Claypool. All of his experience lies with Juju Smith-Schuster, which is why I think he's going to be very dependent on him, much rather it be the other way as well. Juju Smith-Schuster dependent on Ben Roethlisberger. And I just think it's a match made in heaven. And I think he is due for a breakout, or not a breakout, a comeback year. Yes. Thank you, Joe, for not taking my pick. I really
You know, the one thing, and we're all talking about Big Ben, and like you said, every single one of us picked a Steeler as a comeback player. Jacob's first was Connor. I went with Connor. DeMont went, we all did. Are we at all a little bit concerned that Big Ben's not going to be the same player? I mean, how old is he now? He's coming off a major injury. There is no Antonio Brown. Yeah, he did have success with Juju, but that was with Antonio Brown. And now we're a year removed from football and all this stuff going on outside of the world. Who knows how much time these guys have had to get in together on the field. That is a concern as well. Big Ben may not be – look at Phillip Rivers last year. He was downright awful. I mean, he wasn't throwing anywhere near what we've seen him do in the past.
All right, Gabe, I'm going to let you go first this time, man, so nobody takes yours. Let's go with most likely to have a breakout season this year.
Sweet. Well, you said I couldn't do Kyler Murray.
You can, but it's just so obvious every time.
I have another breakout candidate as well, but we talked about him last week as well, so this will be fun. But yeah, we all know Kyler Murray is going to break out. I hope you guys can all agree with me. So I'll go with number 2, and that's DK Metcalf, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
We talked about him last week, Jacob and I, and he was actually both of our picks last week too for a different category. And I just think it's time for him to shine. Last year, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf both saw similar targets, except Tyler Lockett was just way more efficient with his catches. Not to say that DK Metcalf wasn't either, but produced a little bit less. And one of the things that we did talk about last week, Jacob, was his red zone targets. So I spat out a random number that I thought was correct, but I wanted to go back and do the actual research. So I did. Who do you think, and I'll ask this to all three of you guys, which wide receiver do you think, or not even wide receiver, what player in the NFL last year led the league in red zone targets? Who do you think it was?
Metcalf.
It wasn't DK Metcalf.
Okay. I would go Mark Andrews.
And DeMont?
That'd be my guess.
The most red zone, probably McCaffrey?
Close enough. Well, not close at all. It was his teammate, Tyler Lockett, 23 red zone targets last year.
Oh, maybe that's why I was getting it confused, that they both had a pretty high one, though. Yeah.
So DK Metcalf was number 14 in red zone targets. He had 17. Together, those were the only 2 players in the NFL that were on the same team that were in the top 15 in red zone targets. So with that being said, I think that's a testament to Russell Wilson and his ability to find people in the end zone and to not only just pass the ball off, because when we think about Seattle, yeah, we think about the great Russell Wilson, but we also think the last few years, they've been a really run-heavy team.
Yeah.
And I just think that goes to show that, like, Russell Wilson is very, very efficient. So even if they are a run-heavy team, he's still going to find ways to produce. And that means that's a direct correlation to his wide receivers and that they're going to find ways to produce. And I just think this year, DK Metcalf takes that slight bump, takes a slight target share away from Tyler Lockett. And if he keeps those red zone targets, it's only a matter of time before those capitalize into touchdowns. And touchdowns in fantasy means a lot of points. And I think that bodes well for DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue he had a breakout season last year, but I think he's probably going to have a blow-up season this year. I think he's one of those guys who could be a top 10 receiver for sure.
Yeah, last year he was a wide receiver 30 on the year. So I can see him. Tyler Lockett was a wide receiver 13. So I can definitely see them almost switching roles, if not seeing Russell Wilson support both of them as top 20 wide receivers this year, which is great for fantasy.
Yeah.
Very possible. All right, so I'm going to go with a rookie for my breakout. And this is, it sucks when you do podcasts like this because you give away your knowledge and you give away you might give away some guys your eye and some of your sleepers, but I'm going to do it anyway because I really like this guy. And I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but his name is A.J. Dillon. He was drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
Oh.
All right, look, so they have Aaron Jones. They have Jamal Williams. Why are they taking a running back in the second round with the number, the 30th pick?
60, yeah,
62. He was 62 overall. A.J. Dillon. This guy is a freaking beast. I heard people saying like the player to compare him to is Derrick Henry. And you guys know I love Derrick Henry. Look this guy up, man. He's freaking huge. And
6 feet, 247. Wow, that's big.
I don't know why they would do. I mean, look, teams don't care about our fantasy needs. Like, they're not worried about people who have Aaron Jones on their team and keeping him as an RB1. They're worried about their team and staying healthy. And you got to kind of stack up with 2 or 3 running backs these days. There's so many injuries. So I think there's going to be an opportunity this year where this guy gets some play and he just blows up. And that's my prediction for breakout player of the year.
That's a good one. That could qualify as a sleeper too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, by all means, that's a great pick. That's a cool pick. I wouldn't be ballsy enough to go there, Jacob. You're a superhero.
Yeah. I think that's it. You got to have the balls to make that pick. Because
just don't draft him. DeMont had to step out for a minute. Hey, but just don't draft A.J. Dillon, all right, guys? Even though I don't think he's going to be that great. So I was just kidding. All right, Joe, let's go to you, man. Who is your breakout players of the year? We got some time, so name a few if you want.
Yeah, so I had DK Metcalf also on my list, for a lot of the same reasons that Gabe mentioned. But I'm going to go with a couple of running backs. One of them's Kenyon Drake. And he kind of did break out last year, but it wasn't really a sustained success. It was when he got to the Cardinals and DJ was having his injuries. He blew up. It was actually one game against the Niners where he just absolutely torched us. And we had a really good defense. Yeah, I mean, and the guy, he just runs. He's a long body and he's fast. He can catch the ball. He can run out of the backfield. He can do everything that you want from a running back. And so for me, I'm looking at it and, like Gabe's been talking about, Kyler Murray, he's going to break out. He's got Hopkins over there. He's got weapons. He's got other receivers that he can rely on that are coming in, a bunch of rookies that they drafted the last 2 years. And now you're adding in Drake to that. And teams are going to be watching for Kyler running out of the backfield. They're going to be watching for Hopkins. And now you have Drake who you add to that picture. And I think he's going to have a great year just because the attention's not on him. In Miami, he never had a chance. But now you get to Arizona, I think they're going to be a top 10 offense in the league easily. And sky's the limit for the guy. The other one I'll go with is Miles Sanders, who was obviously a rookie last year.
Oh, yep.
Joe is big on Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, you guys saw I already traded for him this offseason in one of our keepers. He's Philly's one of those offenses that you feel like you're never safe at the running back spot. It's like the Patriots. You draft a guy, it's high hopes for him like Sonny Michel or so many guys in the past, and then some guy like LeGarrette Blount comes up, they sign him late, and he ends up being their number one back. Or, James White for 5 years. How many years has he done that? Then you finally draft him, and he doesn't do anything. So Philly's kind of been that same situation. There's 4 or 5 guys. Nobody's ever the lead back. Darren Sproles has been there for God knows how long. But Miles Sanders, he's got the talent. And if you guys watched the end of last year, they had Boston Scott and Miles Sanders, but they kind of started to rely on Sanders a little bit more as the year went on. And, that guy just runs incredibly. I was way more impressed watching him than Montgomery or really any of the other rookie running backs, even though Josh Jacobs was good. So I like both of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, those are 2 good picks. Miles Sanders.
No, dude. Miles Sanders, because I can't even remember the last time Philadelphia had a legit, number one guy. They signed DeMarco Murray, but that never happened. He never performed well there. I think
it was my boy LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy was the last time where they had an RB clear-cut first-round RB1 type guy. So, and that was a while ago.
Yeah,
that was a long time ago. So yeah, we can't really. We'll see. I mean, I like Miles Sanders, man. I was telling you how much I like him, and I'm looking out for him, and he's probably gonna not be on everybody's radar. So I'm gonna be looking out for him in drafts this year. Oh yeah. All right, DeMont, who you got as breakout, man?
Man, I got the fastest rookie wide receiver coming out of the draft.
Oh, no Raiders players. No Raiders players.
Henry Ruggs the third. This man, this is Derek Carr's last year before we draft another quarterback. He runs a 4.27. He's a gadget. He slants, outs, post. So we're going to get this man the ball behind the line of scrimmage, and he's going to run. And for a lot of yards in a new stadium, I believe.
That's a good pick. I like it.
Yeah.
He's someone that can definitely stretch.
And we still have Tyrell to stretch it. And I think Carr is going to be on his best behavior this year because I think he has on a short leash.
Yeah, you don't go out and sign Marcus Mariota. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's not the greatest quarterback, but he is a quarterback that's probably better than most backups. So you don't invest that much in a backup quarterback for him to not potentially see the field. So Derek Carr is definitely on the leash. Good point to make.
I think Mariota, kind of off topic here, I think he's going to do what Tannehill did in Tennessee last year, where Tannehill came in as kind of the veteran backup, right, from Miami, he's had a few good years, but nothing great. And then comes in and midway through the season or whatever it was, week 6, week 7, something like that, takes over and takes that team to the playoffs and almost to the Super Bowl. I don't think Mariota's going to take the Raiders to the Super Bowl. They're just not there defensively. But I think Mariota's going to end up taking over, and he needed a change of scenery. We knew he was good coming out. I mean, the guy has the talent. He's just never been able to put it together on the field. So maybe John Gruden will get that out of him. He's a quarterback coach.
He's still pretty young, too. Him and Jameis Winston came out the same year, I believe.
Yeah.
And they were both, balling.
Him and Derek Carr came out the same year, right? Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, and Marcus Mariota.
Was Derek Carr that year? Derek Carr was kind of an afterthought, I think, between those two guys.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But he wasn't that year, though?
I like it. That's the research dedication.
Oh, yeah, man. I'd be doing that, too. When you see my face get closer, I'm looking shit up.
That was 2014. I don't remember what year Marcus Mariota was.
We need a fact checker.
You took my other one, too, Gabe. I had DK.
Oh, nice.
1,400 yards.
I think that was the same draft. Good call, Gabe.
Hey, but with Ruggs, though, look, Gabe and I talked a lot about how we love big, huge receivers. But with Ruggs, there's a place in the NFL for these small, fast guys, man. Look at Tyreek Hill. Like, he's kind of been leading the way in that.
And Brandon Cooks as well.
Yeah, if you look at these type guys, these guys can be wide receiver ones. They don't have to be a Megatron to be a wide receiver one. They can be like a Tyreek Hill. So I'm not saying Ruggs is going to be an RB1 or a wide receiver one right away, but I think there's some room for him.
He's the Raiders wide receiver one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, for sure.
Were you guys as Raider fans, and this is kind of to Gabe and DeMond, this was known as, one of the best wide receiver drafts in years, right?
Yeah.
And Ruggs was on that list, but he wasn't. Everything I saw, he wasn't a top 3 wide receiver coming out. There was a couple other guys. Yeah. What did you guys think when you heard that? Because there was some other guys on the board that even went in your guys' division, right, to the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos and the Cowboys.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about that when you heard his name?
I was upset because I thought he wasn't the best skill-wise receiver on board. But it made sense because it's the Raiders' MO. He's fast. He has a 42-inch vert. Just throw it up and get it. And you got like CeeDee Lamb and Judy that are more like precise route running. Yeah. But then a quarterback is not precise, so there's no point.
Yeah.
It's very true. The only thing I could think of was, you see the Raiders playing in the same division as Kansas City, and for the last 3 years – you've seen Tyreek Hill completely dismantle your team. So why not go out and try to recreate that? That's what I thought I thought they were doing when I saw
I agree with that too.
I thought for sure. I was sitting there watching the draft. I was like, they're going to draft CeeDee Lamb. That's who I thought they were going to take. And I was like, I could just see his name on the back of a Raiders jersey, but they didn't do it. And now he's on the freaking Cowboys.
So, I thought the Niners were going to take him too.
Dude, I would have been down for that.
I'm happy with what they did. Obviously, that's for another podcast with Kinlaw. But I was pretty shocked that those guys fell there, and the Niners and the Raiders both decided not to take those guys.
Yeah, we'll go with Ayuk or however you pronounce his name, bro. He's from Rockland, so
I like him. Yeah, he's Sierra College, right? He played his first 2 years at Sierra College. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
all right,
crazy.
really quick, Jacob. Before we move on to Bus, I have one more sleeper, and this was the mini game I was telling you about. So I want you guys to see if you can figure out who this player is. Okay, are you ready?
Let's do it.
So this player is a quarterback. All right, that narrows it by like a couple of
a lot.
So you're good. It's hard to believe, but back in 2015, 2016. Those 2 years, he finished as a QB 8 and a QB 13. Mm-hmm. However, today he finds himself as a backup quarterback looking to probably start the season. Who do you think I'm talking about?
Ooh.
Andy Dalton.
It is not Andy Dalton.
Okay.
Jameis?
Oh.
What'd you say, Dewan?
Jameis?
It is not Jameis. That's a great pick, though. I didn't even think about Jameis.
Those are 2 good picks.
Hey, Dalton's had some good years. I thought I got that right, to be honest.
Hold on.
But like I said, he's probably going to start this year, but he is looked at as a backup QB. So who am I speaking of? It's not Tannehill.
Tyrod Taylor.
Oh,
Tyrod
You
Taylor.
love yourself some Tyrod.
I love myself some Tyrod Taylor, and I want to go over him just a little bit. Now, I'm not saying this guy's going to break out by any means. I specifically listed him as a sleeper. One of the main reasons why is because I think because of COVID, we know that a lot of these rookies that are coming in with high expectations, we can no longer look at them this way anymore because of these shortened training camps, because there are no preseason games. These rookies have to be adjusted in like fantasy rankings and your values that you see them of. It's just not the same. They all got to get bumped down a little bit. So Justin Herbert, he's definitely not going to start the season this year. I see Tyrod Taylor starting at least 8 games, if not the whole season. One of the big reasons why I even picked him in the first place is that he's reconnecting with Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo when Tyrod Taylor finished those years.
True, yeah.
QB8 and the QB 13. He can run the ball. He's mobile. He doesn't have the flashiest of passing numbers, but he gets the job done, and he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Of course, he went to Cleveland. That was not the best, but everybody was rooting for Baker there. Here, I think people understand that Justin Herbert needs time. Therefore, Tyrod Taylor steps in, and I think it's very likely that we can see him have success. Maybe not in a 10-team league that most of us play in. In a 12-team league, I can see him being drafted as a player who's going to start every week, if not a spot start week to week, if you need him. Not to mention the Chargers. I had it here. They have the 8th easiest schedule against for the QB throughout the entirety of the season. Not to mention the first 5 games, they have like the 5th easiest schedule. So it really opens the door for him to get out of the gates rolling. I don't think he's going to be drafted a lot, but I'll tell you right now, if I see him there in a redraft league or something like that, and I'm looking for a quarterback because I didn't take one early, I'm probably going to take Tyrod Taylor because I've seen what he's done in the past with Anthony Lynn, and he's got the same weapons, if not better weapons here.
He has weapons. Look, San Diego, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams.
Los Angeles.
Yeah. He got some weapons, but I'm still not drafting Tyrod Taylor. But unless, he's available in the 2 quarterback dynasty league, that there is a place where you can draft him and put him to some use.
It's not even necessarily that he's a bad player, but I think this year I was looking at the list kind of myself before we were talking. I mean, obviously I look kind of throughout the summer just to see what's going on. Just as a refresher, I can easily pick out 10 quarterbacks I like better. Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina with Moore and CMC. I'm not even high on Teddy Bridgewater, but from a fantasy perspective, I think he's going to have a decent year. You got Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben, Tom Brady, all the usual suspects, Russell Wilson, Mahomes, Kyler Murray. You haven't even talked about guys like Matt Ryan and these other dudes that are just there every year. So I don't think you have a bad point. He might be a guy you got you have an Aaron Rodgers, you need a bye week starter, throw him in there. I'd feel comfortable doing that more than a guy like Derek Carr.
All right, so with Tyrod Taylor, for me, like Joe was saying, there's at least 12, I mean, maybe even more than 12 guys
15,
who I feel
yeah.
way more comfortable with. And it's not that Tyrod isn't good. At his peak, like you said he finished 8th one year. And there was a year where there were years where he was a legit, like, if you're 10 team, you're starting him. Like, I remember those years when we were playing him. So he's not a terrible quarterback by any means. I just feel like we haven't seen him in a long time. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect from him.
He's definitely older. And again, this is mostly speculation. However, I know that at this point, he's going to start. And a QB8 finish signifies a QB1. A QB13 finish signifies that he's a week-to-week spot starter if you need a bye or if you need a QB because your QB's injured. Those are great numbers for a QB13 as a QB13. So I just think, again, I'm not saying he's going to go off the walls and turn into this QB1 and outperform all those guys that you just mentioned. However, I think in spot starts, like I said, Chicago has one of the easiest schedules with the QB this season. I think it's very likely that he's going to be a tantalizing option for you guys on your waiver wires when you have buys that come up throughout the season. Juicy.
I guarantee you're taking him in the first round in that the Dynasty League, the 2 quarterback league.
I don't know if I take him in the Dynasty League, but I take him at the right price, not first pick.
No, maybe not first round, but maybe second round, third round. I can see that.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially like there's not a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be starting that you can draft. So
no, not at all.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's get into regression or bust. I mean, whatever you want to call it, regression, bust, we can call it either one. I'll go ahead and go first. And look, this is a guy that I'm never high on, but and he's amazing, but I just think he's too injury prone. And I don't know, but he's always a top 5 running back when he's healthy, and that's Dalvin Cook. And I think whether he plays all year or whether he gets injured, I think he's going to regress. I don't think he's going to be terrible, not at all, but I think he's going to go from maybe top 5 to top 12, even if he plays all season. And that's partially due to Alexander Mattison, who I think this guy needs some more playing time. So I think it's a mixture. Look, when Dalvin Cook is fully healthy, he's playing majority of the snaps, right? But I do think they're going to try to get Alexander Mattison some more touches. Maybe if it was 85-15 last year, maybe it's going to go to 70-30 this year. So due to possible injury and this guy right on his heels, in my opinion, I think Dalvin Cook is going to regress a little bit this year.
Yeah. I don't think that's a bad option. I mean, and like you said, you're talking 70-30. That might be best case scenario for Dalvin with his holdout, because we already talked about how much COVID has affected these players on and off the field. And then you throw in a guy that's holding out. He's not even talking to the team. He's not involved in the situation. He wants to get paid. That's where his mind is. His mind's not, I need to come out and perform. It's, I need to get paid, and then you'll talk to me. So with that, who knows what he's been doing? And who knows when he does finally rejoin the team, if it's a situation like Melvin Gordon where he's back week 6, week 8, whatever the case is. I'm not sure how much I would rely on him going into the fantasy playoffs when Madison has already had a few games to establish himself and had a chance to be with the team. And like you said, I don't think they're going to pay him what he wants with a guy like Madison there ready to take over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, DeMont. So whether you want to call it a bust or a regression, who do you got for this category, man?
I have Sony Michel.
All right. Well,
900 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. And I think that their offense has less to do with Brady and more to do with Belichick. So you're going to get more of the same. And Cam was throwing to McCaffrey all season. So I feel like he would gravitate towards somebody like White more so than Michel. So I feel like he capped at the 7 touchdowns and the 900 yards. And I say cut that touchdown total in half because of Cam and his vultures. And I just don't see him rushing more than 900 yards. Yeah. So I feel like he's going around 3rd round. I feel like he's gonna probably return 5th, 6th round value. So I would probably steer clear from Michel.
That's a good point, Damon, especially because you exit Tom Brady and insert Cam Newton, who, although he doesn't rush as much as he used to, he's still a scrambling quarterback at the heart. So he's probably going to lose carries in that matter too. And yeah, it's a good pick.
So,
but wait,
right.
hold on, Jacob. We gotta settle this now, though. Is this our second book it down of the year?
Did you keep track of the last one though?
So, well, I have the first one. We got it, but we got to book this one down. So our first one was, if you guys want to jump on this really quick.
So these are like bets. These are like bets. Okay. And if we make a bet, we say book it down, and that's the bet. I don't know what we win, but it's just
all the way down.
Water bet, whatever. I don't know. Hey, the first one.
We keep track of this, and at the end of the year, whoever has more book it down wins. We take them and pay for their dinner or something. Buy them a bottle.
All right. That's fair. Yeah. Everybody else buys them a bottle, pitches in on whatever bottle they want under $50. All right.
Sure. So in the essence of time, I'll shoot out this first one. We actually have 3, but I haven't gone back to look at the first one yet. The second one that we did have, though, is Stephon Diggs going to be a top 15 wide receiver this year? Jacob thinks he is going to finish below a wide receiver 15, which is between 1 and 15. I think he's going to finish well outside the top 15. What do you guys think?
I think he's top 15, maybe the 14, 15.
Wow.
Easy.
Joe,
Easy.
So it looks like I'm by myself.
Not easy, but.
No, I think it's easy. I mean, Josh Allen is a stud. I love him. We're talking about how Singletary is going to break out this year. And they have an offense now. They've got Josh Allen. They've got Singletary. They've got John Brown. They've got
John Brown is a sleeper, man. That he's dope.
John Brown is great. I've liked him since he was in Arizona. I mean, the guy has some health problems, I know, so he's done good some years, and then the others he hasn't played as much. But Stephon Diggs was a top dog in Minnesota. They supported him and Thielen without a great quarterback. Case Keenum had both of them in the top 15. And you're telling me Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs went to
I'll take Josh Allen over whatever. I forget his name right now. Joe's favorite quarterback of all time, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I'll take Josh Allen over him anytime.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you guys all bring up good points. I'm not saying he's going to be bad this year. I mean, you're in the NFL. You're going to be good. And he's looked at as a top upper echelon wide receiver. I just think that he's going to see the same. I mean, one of the main reasons why he wanted out of Minnesota is because he wasn't getting any love. Minnesota was a run-heavy team, and he didn't see a lot of targets. He came out and said that. He wanted the ball more, and he wasn't getting it. In Buffalo, you have a team that is dictated by the defense that plays. The defense is good in Buffalo. I think the Bills are going to be a grinded-out team. Josh Allen is going to scamper with his legs. He's going to hand it off to Singletary. He's going to hand it off to Zach Moss. And much like Russell Wilson, he could very much be super efficient when it comes to making people like John Brown or Stephon Diggs relevant, which John Brown was totally relevant last year. Mm-hmm. However, I just don't think he's as good, not yet, as Russell Wilson, because he has the same amount of opportunities as Russell Wilson did last year. He just didn't convert as much. I don't think he makes that jump this year, and Stephon Diggs is a direct result of that. It's like, I want to get out of Minnesota because I want more targets. Yeah, I'm going to Buffalo where I'm probably going to see the same amount of targets. I don't see it shaking out for him like he thinks that you guys think it will be. But that's why we have a book it down. This is great. Yeah. I love the debate.
So to be clear, I said top 15 and Gabe said he wasn't. So you guys agree. Yeah.
Gabe's the outlier because you have guys like Odell, Sutton, and AJ that kind of round out that bottom 13, 14, 15. And I feel like he can surpass those guys easily.
Well, I've got this up right now. Let's go back. Let me pull out my phone. I can't find it right now. I had the top 15 up from last year. A couple of those guys in there. Okay, I got it right here. We've got Michael Thomas, Godwin, Julio, Kupp, Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Julian Edelman. Where am I at here? What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's 7. Allen Robinson's 8. Galladay's 9. Cooper's 10. Devontae Parker was 11. Mike Evans, Lockett, Woods, and Landry. Right there, you've got Landry, Woods. Devontae Parker had a great last, 5 weeks, which I think he's a good player, but is he going to do that again? You've got Allen Robinson. He's always been hit or miss. And then you've got Julian Edelman with no more Brady.
He's falling out.
Keenan Allen, who's getting older. And like we've talked about, Tyrod Taylor, he's not much of a passer. Any one of those guys could fall out. And as much as I love Julio, and I think he's got a couple more years in him, he's getting older too. And
well, with the same guys that you say might fall out, there's still plenty of other guys who might jump into that top 15.
Absolutely.
Like Stephon Diggs. There's just like I said, we're running out of time, but for the sake of to agree to disagree, we'll have a debate about it later. We got it. Booked it down.
So look, Demont,
let's jump to Sony Michel real quick.
I will take the over on 900 yards and 7 touchdowns for Sony Michel.
Under.
Right, I'll take
it down. Book it down.
All right, what is it? 900 yards.
Over under 900 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Yards.
And this is just rushing yards, right? I mean,
just rushing yards.
Over under. All right.
He's not going to catch the ball anyway. He might catch the ball 5 times all year.
Yeah, so any book it down, we could all 4 say yes or no or whatever it is, and then keep track from there. Yeah.
Sounds good. Jacob's over. Simon is under.
Hey, I'm gonna. It's a bold one, I'll admit, but screw it. It's for fun. All right, Gabe, who you got for your regress or bust player?
Yeah, so my regress player, or I should say my bust player, isn't necessarily a player who played last year. I'm going to go with a rookie, and I'm going to go based on the fact that he's busting because of his draft value, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. For a number of reasons that we've talked about today, COVID-19 is disrupting all of football, and it's a big implication of how it's going to disrupt us for fantasy football. No preseason games, no time to really build that relationship. I just think, right now he's going at the 2.9 or 3.1, so he's going right there at the back of the second round or early first pick of the third round. I get it. People are ecstatic about the Kansas City Chiefs and that high-octane offense. I just don't see it early on. By all means, after the second half of the season and we start rolling into that second half, Clyde Edwards-Helaire could emerge into a perennial all-star. However, if you're in a redraft league and you take Clyde Edwards-Helaire at that price, you're drafting him to be your running back 1, running back 2. He's going to lose you weeks at that price because I don't think he's going to take off right away out of the gates due to those reasons. Now, McCoy, he departs. That's 100 carries gone. You think, okay, well, hey, maybe he's just going to bust in and take those 100 carries. Not necessarily. They signed James Washington, who had DeAndre Washington, who had 130 carries with the Raiders last year. There's a lot of moving parts. And as much as we talk about Bill Belichick and how he's able to just find that diamond in the rough, Andy Reid's no different. He's going to find players who are going to produce week in and week out who aren't your weekly studs. Tyreek Hill had duds last year. Despite Travis Kelce being as great as he had duds last year. So there is going to be someone to step up every single week. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's going to have those weeks. I just don't think he's going to be as reliable, especially at that draft price early on in your season. And again, rookie leagues, draft the hell out of that guy. He's going to be great one day. In a redraft league, I'm not touching him at that draft price. There's more assured options there for me to take that I know are going to produce, get 250 carries. And I just don't want to put all my money in a high-octane offense like Kansas City just to say, oh, he's going to supersede his 100 carries and just be super efficient. I don't know.
I'm not high on him either, to be honest. I think there's way too much hype going around this guy. Like people like our buddy Shane are going to draft him in like the second round. I don't know. I'm not feeling it either.
But if there was any offense where you can just plug a rookie in, it would be that one. So
that's
absolutely.
For.
And if there's an offense where, there's some other guys, DeAndre Watt, there's no real number 1 back in that offense. If he comes out week 1 and he has chemistry with Patrick Mahomes, he's going to get the job. Damian Williams might get a couple of series, and Washington may do a series or 2, but it'll be his job if he performs. So I think that's the hype right there where guys like Dylan and some of the other rookie running backs, they're sharing with guys, Kerryon Johnson, Adam Jones.
That's true.
This guy doesn't really have a number 1 to fight with. Damian Williams was kind of forced into that role, and he's had his weeks. And there's also been weeks where it's like, man, this guy's awful. how can the guy be so bad in Patrick Mahomes' offense? No disrespect to him. I'm sure he's a great football player, person. But, as far as a fantasy owner's perspective, it's like, dude, at least give me a couple catches, give me a touchdown.
We know it's all kind of BS, but the coaches talk about him like Damian Williams, like, oh, this is our guy, and they still do. Like, I saw recent stuff of them saying things like that. So I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, I'm not completely like hating on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think he's being overhyped right now just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, who you got, man?
So I got a couple of them. I'll go with my number one, which is Keenan Allen. And this is just kind of going over towards, everything we've been talking about with Tyrod. And I know Rivers wasn't great last year, but Keenan Allen finished as, in our league, which is 15 yards per point and PPR, he finished number 6. And I don't see any way that he does that. He had a huge first 3 weeks where he caught like 7 touchdowns or something like that in those 3 weeks. He was wide receiver 1, I think, up until week 4 or 5. And I just don't like – I'm not big on that offense. I'm going to stay away from it. And Keenan Allen's always been one of those guys who it always feels like this is going to be his last year. And then somehow it's not, which credit to him. But I'm not willing – I would not take him as a top 15 wide receiver. If going back to our conversation, if we're looking at Stephon Diggs or Keenan Allen, I'm grabbing Stephon Diggs if they're both available, personally.
For sure. That's a good call, Joe. And I just want to take this time because, I did trade for Keenan Allen and another player in a draft with Damon a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
But just because I said that Tyrod Taylor is going to be a great quarterback for fantasy those first 8 weeks doesn't mean that the players that he's throwing to are going to be great because he didn't throw the ball that much to have that success. He was a mobile quarterback. So I don't think, like you said, Keenan Allen's going to have that fire like he did the first few weeks of the season last year. Mm-hmm. But he did just come out on Twitter and he threw shade on the entire league. So if you guys want to look on your phones after this, he literally, as of 2 hours ago before this recording, he came out and said on Twitter, I am better than Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill. He literally came out and dusted
Allen.
Damn, that's a bold move. That's bold.
So the he's got to back it up. And
he's the only one that wears long sleeves.
Yeah. Even
but still,
in Los Angeles.
Like you said, Joe, we always doubt him and then he just performs somehow. But you think this is the year that it doesn't happen.
I'm not saying he's going to be an awful player. Like, you can plug him in as a flex all day. You can probably use him as a wide receiver.
I mean, this is regress or bust.
So he's not going to be a top 10 wide receiver, but I would draft him if he's there in the 5th round. Probably the 4th round, he's good value.
Well, he has a lot of name value, so that's why he gets taken higher.
He specifically called out Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Michael Thomas, and he said the list goes on. So
Michael Thomas,
I like that.
He knows his place.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, so to wrap this up, so at the end of every episode, we'll do a bold prediction of the week. And when we're actually in the fantasy season, this will be a lot more fun because you could be like, Kenny Galladay is going to go for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, something like that. But for this, it's like more season predictions, right? So, and I was thinking about this, and I still think Ertz is in the holy trinity of tight ends. So I think Kelsey, Kittle, and Ertz. So my question is, if there is a tight end who's going to join them where the whole season they're going to keep it up, not for 4 games, not a game here and there, for the whole season, join that top tier tight end group. Who do you guys think has a chance to do that? Let's go with you first, Demont.
So you're saying that somebody that's outside of the top 3 that can
not Kelsey, Kittle, or Ertz, which there are guys that are on the cusp of that already. But who do you think is going to either surpass one of those guys or just join that group as just automatically?
I say Darren Waller will surpass Andrews, Ertz, and probably sit right behind Kittle.
Okay, that's probably the best option. Like, Waller was killing it last year, so that's a great choice.
That's my pick too, and I'll piggyback off of what Damon just said, and what we were talking about earlier. This is Derek Carr's make it or break it year. Last year, Darren Waller in the beginning of the season found tremendous success with Derek Carr and then kind of just faded away as the season progressed. However, make it or break it year, he's going to go to what he knows. He's going to throw to who he knows, and that's big boy Darren Waller. So if anyone has a chance to capitalize on what he did last season. Oh, not only that, I don't know if you guys follow, but the NFL Top 100, they do it every year where they count down the season with the top 100 players in the NFL. Darren Waller was the first player on that list at number 100. So,
really? Oh,
yeah.
Good for him.
That is the NFL's top 100. You guys can look it up. They do it on YouTube. They do a special every day. So Darren Waller was number 1. I'm sure there's plenty of other tight ends in front of him, like Zach Ertz, Kittle, and Kelsey, but he's still one of them on there. So that's pretty good.
Dude, honestly, the Raiders with Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller, they actually have some decent fantasy options, man, like now. So
and Ruggs if he blows up for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Joe.
That defense and Derek Carr.
Who you got, Joe?
I had a couple guys I wrote down for this one. I'm going to go with probably the one that nobody's thinking about, and that's Tyler Higbee.
Okay.
That dude was impressive the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. I wrote down some numbers from him from week 11 through week 15. He had 522 yards in 5 weeks. He was targeted 56 times, and he had 2 touchdowns. They lost. There's no more Gurley. There's no more Brennan Cooks. It's him, Kupp, and Woods. That's who it is, and you can tell with Goff, he leans on those 3 guys at the end of the year. He wasn't going to Cooks as much. I just see Higbee. He's a big dude. I also had Waller on the list, obviously, and Mark Andrews, just because when you have Lamar Jackson, but kind of as Gabe said earlier, it's very unlikely Lamar Jackson's going to replicate what he did last year. And so even if he takes a little step back, Mark Andrews probably won't hit that threshold. But and if you probably would have asked me a couple months ago, I would have said Austin Hooper. But now that he's on the Browns, I don't like him as much. So I'll go with Higbee. I don't think he'll hit that top 3, but I think when I'm looking at tight ends, I have him as my 4th or 5th guy right there.
Okay. And look, mine is not too, mine's an obvious one, kind of like Darren Waller, but this one all relies on health, and that is Evan Ingram. This guy has and a lot of people say he's just a wide receiver playing the tight end position. Like, this guy is huge, has all the talent, and it's just injuries, right? He has these blow up games, but does he ever have more than 4 or 5 blow up games in a season? Not really.
Gets injured.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always random and sporadic. So I think this could be the year, if he stays healthy, that he can join that legitimate top 5 tier all year long.
Yeah.
Surprised nobody mentioned Gronk.
I know. I considered it.
Wow. I wasn't even thinking about that with Tom Brady. The problem with Gronk is Evans and Godwin. I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to be – he'll be top 10, I think.
I think so too, yeah.
Some touchdowns. But
I hope he's good. I think he's a decoy, but I hope he's good.
I think he's going to pick it up towards the end of the season. I think you're right. Probably the first few weeks he's a decoy. I don't think he's ready, but you never know. Him and Brady they're buddies. So
that's true. The last 2 years before he retired, though, I mean, he wasn't even returning tight end 10 value. He was outside the top 10 tight ends. And I remember I busted Gio with a trade for him, and it paid off in my favor.
Yeah,
for a first round pick. I think the time off usually hurts players. For him, I think it might have been good.
Sure.
That guy was beat up. He's not that old. What is he, 30? I saw the other day, I was kind of surprised. He's like 31, 32, something like that. He's not that old, but he was beat up. All those Super Bowl runs, they take a toll. That guy was getting hammered every year. So I think the time off. And now moving from cold weather Boston to sunny Tampa.
It'll loosen the bones.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Well,
he's going to be energized.
I love me some Gronk, but I don't want to get too excited about him. Like, I'm not going to take him too high, but somebody will. I'm sure they will. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of First Round Fantasy. Thanks for the new crew joining, DeMont, Joe, and, of course, from Jacob and Gabe. And we're going to mix it up. We might not all 4 be on every week, maybe 2 of us, 3 of us, but here and there. But we're going to be going weekly from now on, and we're going to be doing our division previews. So we'll map it out. We'll make a plan, and we'll go ahead and do that. So thanks for joining this week, guys. That was fun.
More the merrier. It was super fun, guys.
Yep.
All
Take
right.
it.
Water next time, guys. You gotta stay hydrated. Bring your
Yeah.
Oh,
water.
yeah. Or a beer. Maybe we'll have some beers next time.
Yes, sir.
All right. See you guys next week.